knowing what it cost you. I told myself stories about why it was different than it was. I told myself I was unhappy, and that I couldn't help myself, and that the heart cannot be governed. I spent 33 years believing those stories, or trying to, and then I got sick, and the stories stopped working. She stopped to breathe. She said, "You were 7 months along." I have thought about that more than anything else in 33 years. You were 7 months carrying your child, and I knew it, and I kept going. There is no story in the world that makes that into something other than what it was. I was your sister, and I kept going. I don't want to die without you knowing that I know what I was. The room was very still. The bird outside had gone quiet. The clock kept its count. I looked at Dorothy, white-haired, diminished, breathing carefully in the afternoon light, and I tried to find the girl in her face, the girl with the golden hair and the green eyes, the girl I had slept beside for 17 years, the girl whose hair I had braided every Sunday morning before church, who had complained every single time that I was pulling too hard, and whom I had never once pulled hard enough to hurt, though I could have. She was still there, behind everything the years had done, and the illness, and the 33 years of separation. She was still there, still Dorothy, still my sister, the same person who had wronged me and the same person I had loved, and both of those things were true simultaneously and neither canceled the other. I reached out and took her hand. She startled slightly, the way a person startles who is not expected to be touched. Her hand was dry and light, smaller than I remembered, the bones close to the surface. I held it. I said, "I know, Dorothy. I've always known what you were. I just needed you to know it too." We sat like that while the afternoon moved across the floor. Her daughter brought tea at some point and we drank it. We talked about our children and our grandchildren and our mother and father and the farm in Rowan County and the cold upstairs room where we had slept. We talked about Sam, who died at 17 and whom neither of us had ever stopped grieving. We talked about the walnut table my father had made and whether it still stood. And I told her yes, I had it still. And she closed her eyes and said, "Of course you do. Clara May keeps everything." I did not tell her I forgave her. Not that afternoon. Forgiveness is not a thing you can produce on demand, like a coin from a pocket. It is something that moves through you slowly, over time, the way a bone knits after it has been broken. You cannot feel it happening and you cannot hurry it. And one day you press on the place that hurt, and you find that the quality of the pain has changed. But I held her hand, and she knew what that meant. I left the next morning before she woke. I stood in her doorway and looked at her in the early light, breathing carefully, white-haired, smaller than she had ever been. And I looked for a long time. Then I went downstairs and thanked her daughter and walked out into the Tennessee morning. She died 22 days later. Her daughter wrote to tell me. I did not go to the funeral. I had already said what needed to be said. The burial was a ceremony for people who needed the ritual of it. I had gotten what I had come for. I am 83 years old. I have 14 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren who visit on Sundays and fill the house with noise and take my preserves home in their pockets when they think I am not looking. I have made preserves every August for 60 years. I have delivered 43 babies and sat with the dying and buried the people I loved and gotten up every morning and lit the stove and started the day. That is a life. That is the whole shape of it. People ask whether I forgave Dorothy. I have given different answers at different times, because it was a different thing at different points in my life, and I will not pretend to a consistency I do not have. In the years immediately following, No. The wound was too fresh and the infection had to drain before healing could begin. In the middle years, after Thomas died and the children were grown, Dorothy had become a figure in my past rather than a presence in my life, and I was no longer actively not forgiving her, which is not the same as forgiving her, but is a kind of resting place, the place where the exhaustion of carrying anger finally exceeds the need to carry it. After her deathbed, after she gave me the truth plainly without softening or excuse, something shifted, not healed, shifted. She had given me the one thing that nothing else could have substituted for, the acknowledgement. Not I am sorry you were hurt, not the heart cannot help itself, not a story about her unhappiness offered as explanation and therefore as partial absolution. Simply, what I did was wrong. I chose it. I know what I was. That acknowledgement changed the nature of what I was carrying. It did not lighten it. It made it honest. An honest weight, I have found, is easier to bear than dishonest weight, even when it is heavier. Forgiveness is not what people imagine it to be. People imagine it as a door. You decide to open it and walk through, and you're on the other side, and the past is behind you. It is not a door. It is a river that you cross over and over at different seasons, when the water is running at different levels. Some crossings are easy. Some require everything you have. Some days the river is too high, and you stand on the bank and wait. The waiting is not failure. The waiting is part of it. The thing that was taken from me, the thing I want to be precise about, because I have spent 60 years being precise about it, was not my marriage exactly. The marriage survived, imperfectly, for another 22 years. It was not my trust in Thomas exactly, because trust can be reconstructed, slowly, into something functional, if not identical to what existed before. What was taken was a quality of safety, the feeling that the innermost circle of your life, your husband, your sister, the people closest to the center, is unconditionally on your side. I never had that feeling again after November of 1871, not without a small watchfulness underneath it, not without the slight, permanent holding back of the piece of yourself that knows, now, what people are capable of. I do not say this to make you afraid of the people you love. I say it because the truth about betrayal is rarely said plainly,